Hey everybody, this is Sonny Wasserman, also known as Harvey, but here we are today. It's a sunny day. I am back at the beach, and we are joined at the Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Zoom call, otherwise known as GREEP. We're at 268. This has been 6 years, and how did we wind up after 6 years looking at an election like we're looking at? So we're starting with 43 people, and we're going to do a deep, deep dive today, at least for the first hour, maybe even two, on what we're facing in terms of having a legitimate election. What a concept in the fall. We're joined by really great activists, top of the line people who have been working on these issues for a long, long time. We're going to go one by one deep into the swamp, as they say, and really sort out what we're going to have face in the fall to have a legitimate and accurate vote count and participate democratic small d. We are a nonprofit. We do not advocate for either party or any party, but here we are having our own party, and we got to figure out what we're facing and how we're going to deal with it in terms of having a legitimate election in 2026. And God knows the world depends on it. So after that, we're going to deal with some various important topics, and two, including my fellow sports nut, Tatanka Bricka. We're going to discuss the apparent presence of extraterrestrials in Major League Baseball and basketball. We have three particular principles to discuss there. I will not tell you their names at the moment. And then at 7 o'clock, when we often adjourn, we are going to be joined instead by the great Christian Nunez from the National Organization for Women to talk about the really amazingly powerful and feisty and focused national uprising. I wouldn't call it an organization at this point. They're to oppose data centers. This is a very big deal and unexpected, but there's tremendous opposition that's arisen to these data centers. And Christian is focused on that. She could not make it until 7 o'clock Eastern time. And so that's when we'll have her, and we'll go to 7:20. And my question, of course, is if AI is so smart, why do they need nuclear power plants for these data centers? It's ridiculous. And every data center I've ever seen does not have solar panels on the rooftop. So we're going to get to that in a couple hours. But in the meantime, we have, of course, the issue of getting to the bottom or top of how we have a fair, reliable, and honest election. What a concept in 2026. We're going to deal with a wide range of issues from gerrymandering to electronic voting machines to repression of the voter turnout, all that stuff, nuts to bolts, soup to nuts, or whatever it is. But first, we have a brief moment with a very important film that's going to be made available on Thursday, today being Monday, nationwide about Dan Ellsberg. And, I like to say that I got arrested with Dan Ellsberg. Clearly, I'm not the only one. And so at some point, we will have T-shirts printed up. That's a plan, right, Judith? The T-shirts that say "I got arrested with Dan Ellsberg." In my case, we were also with Dr. Benjamin Spock, Mary Morgan, and Daniel Berrigan, which was a ton of fun. That was back in 1980 in the Pleistocene era. But Judith Ehrlich, we're going to give you 5 minutes here before we dig deep into the election world. Dan Ellsberg was on our call several years ago. He was a truly great guy, really a lot of fun to get arrested with. And can you tell us, Judith, about your film? And Alison Greene, you're also with us here. We have, what do we got here? 58 people to start. But go ahead. We are on YouTube and streaming and all that stuff. Let's hear about this film, which is going to be available for viewing on Thursday about Dan Ellsberg. Please jump in. Do we have Judith with us to talk about the film? John Steiner, are you with us to give us a rundown, or Claire Greensfelder? Someone was going to talk to us about this film.
Yes, I was going to, and
Let's do it. Let's do it,
muting
please.
me and cutting my picture off. I don't
I
know
see you,
why.
Judith. You
You
are with
do?
us. You're wearing
Go ahead and
a blue monk's robe.
start your
So
picture again.
No,
Start your camera again, please.
tell
I
us,
don't
please,
know.
about this Daniel Ellsberg film.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but I will be happy to talk about it. Can you hear me now?
We can, and we have here the link in the chat for anybody who wants to know how to get to the film. I
Yes,
understand it's X-rated. Is that true?
it is. Yes, for those
Okay, there
who,
you go.
yes,
And
just to
I
make
see
it
my buddy
interesting.
Claire Greensfelder is also with us, my
Yes.
fellow Greenpeacer. So please,
It,
Judith, tell us about the film.
it's a half an hour film. It's a short film. It's really meant to start another freeze movement. It's an organizing film. It's really been described as terrifying and energizing at the same time. It's really Dan, in his own words, laying out the dangers of nuclear war and the possibility of reducing those dangers. And I think most people know Dan as the person who released the Pentagon Papers in 1971 and blew the whistle on the Vietnam War. But before that, he was a nuclear war planner. I don't think as many people know about that part of his life. And he had secrets of both of those things in his safe, and the secrets about nuclear war were blown away in a hurricane. And so he wasn't able to release them the way he did release the Pentagon Papers. But he reconstructed them from his memory and from meticulous research, and wrote a book about that called The Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. And he has had an amazing knowledge on this subject. And before he passed away, there's the film. Before he passed away, I had the opportunity to interview him at length on this subject, and it's always at length with Dan, because the man was the most articulate person I've ever known, with the best memory I've ever known. So things went on for a while with him, but I think it was a 3 or 4 hour interview. But we took the best of it and put it into a short film, which has beautiful animation, and I think it's quite will keep people's attention and hopefully motivate people to get out and do something about this issue, which has been lost in the sauce of all the unbelievable level of things we have to worry about at the moment, including the election, which I'm really interested to see what you have to say about that. But anyway, so we're launching it this Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll have a panel which includes the glorious Patricia Ellsberg and Robert Ellsberg. So his widow and his son will be with us. And is Claire here? Claire, do you want to talk about
I'm
who
not sure
else
if I'm
will be?
online.
Yeah, Claire Greensfelder, who was a leader in the freeze movement, has been our impact producer, along with Steve Ladd, who was the head of the California freeze movement. So it turns out a lot of people are still around who were interested in the freeze and are willing to get involved in this again, to be in the leadership of this new movement led by this film, as the freeze movement was launched by a film. But Claire, maybe you can talk about the rest of the panel who will be with us.
Well, this
Sure.
is the great Claire Greensfelder. She was not only was she my cohort at Greenpeace, she was my boss. And so
Nobody's a boss, Harvey.
Claire, you can give me a job rating and then go ahead and tell us about this wonderful film.
150%.
Anybody can start their video that's co-hosted. So please, if you're a co-host, please start your video. Thank you.
Okay, so absolutely, Harvey, 150% job rating, always the best. Our most impactful, speaking of impact, senior advisor to the Greenpeace nuclear campaign, and always a delightful person in any situation with tremendous good ideas. So, but it's really, thank you for sneaking us in at the top of the hour for this particular announcement. Yes, we have this. Judith has made another really important film. Many of you probably saw her last two films, The Most Dangerous Man, Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers, followed by The Boys That Said No, which was about Vietnam era draft resistors. And this, the first of which was nominated for an Academy Award. And this one is incredibly timely because she's worked on it for a number of years, and yet it focuses on the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which for the first time in 20 years, the US is not actively engaged in any negotiations with Russia or China or anyone else on reducing our arsenal. It expired in February, and here we are in one of the most dangerous world moments we've ever been in, and they're not talking. And these are with positive news. When we started the freeze, there were about 60, 70,000 warheads in the world, enough to destroy 700 planets. Now we've only got about 12,000 warheads, enough to destroy 120 planets. So we've actually made progress, got to say that. And some of the people who've been involved in this progress will be speaking on our panel, including Kevin Martin, the president of Peace Action Education Fund, which is actually the legacy organization that took on from the freeze after it closed up. It merged with SANE, the Committee for a Sane Nuclear Policy, and they have chapters all over the country. Back from the Brink, which is a new coalition, May Lee Jones, who's one of their Maylee Hughes, excuse me, one of their wonderful new younger organizers based in LA, actually, Harvey, at PSR, will be talking about the 5-point plan that Back from the Brink has at 26 hubs across the US, where they're doing all kinds of organizing on nuclear weapons policy and trying to bring us back into negotiations. We'll have Jackie Cabasso, who is the head of the Western States Legal Foundation, who has been suing the US Department of Energy for years and years to try and stop nuclear proliferation, and as also the U.S. contact from Mayors for Peace International. And I will say Jackie has probably been arrested with Dan, as I have, as Harvey has, multiple times. And then finally, of course, we'll have the Ellsberg family, both Dan and Patricia. So we'll be providing both the current situation of weapons in our country and in the world, but also what you can do. And there's a new global movement that's worked to get the ban treaty, the treaty on the prohibition of all nuclear weapons passed a few years ago. They won the Nobel Peace Prize for it, mostly led by young people, launched by young people in Australia and Europe. And it actually is a treaty that is going to have a big review meeting in New York in December. So we're encouraging people, join us Thursday night at 5 o'clock California time, 9 o'clock Eastern, and everything in between and around. The film is only 29 minutes long. It's an organizing film, a lot like the last epidemic was for the nuclear freeze. But also we'll have this panel for about half an hour of presentations, half an hour of Q&A, but mostly we're encouraging you to watch it, to show it, to share it, to organize your own screenings, and to join the movement, the new movement, the reinvigorated movement, to get these things off our planet. It's an absolutely abomination that we're spending trillions of dollars on weapons when it all could be going for renewable energy, as Harvey, I'm sure, would be the first to tell you. So,
Absolutely. Well, now I'm the second to tell you, since you started. Claire, Steve Caruso, did you want to jump in here?
I just wanted to say something quickly. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time, Claire, not 9. 5 o'clock California, 8 o'clock Eastern.
Not enough coffee today. My math is off.
I know.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe we should, I don't know if you can get your license on YouTube to be Creative Commons. That way we could actually play the trailer on our show. You can't do it right now, but anybody, this is a big point, that is trying to help the world community should have a Creative Commons license. Otherwise, you can't rebroadcast it without being shut down.
This film is free to the public. It will be, anybody can have it. They can all put it on their own websites. We're going to be simulcast by some community media centers on Thursday, but anyone can broadcast it anywhere they want. After that, it'll be free and available on YouTube and Vimeo.
Yeah.
So you've got the link in the chat, is that right?
The link in the chat is for, I think, the website where you can register.
Yes.
And after the launch on June 4th at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, we will be making, as Judith said, available free of charge to anyone who wants to show it in any kind of meeting. And we also would appreciate it if you're going to be doing any kind of major event, let us know. We might be able to provide a speaker, or we encourage you to invite local speakers from your local peace groups. And there'll also be action and toolkit elements on the website, including a sample press release, different kinds of important dates in the nuclear calendar where you could do events, and resources about the Ellsberg family, and facts and figures about the nuclear fuel chain, including our nuclear weapons.
Fantastic. And of course, I think next week we have another discussion on that. Is that right, Steve? We may be having Mark Helfand next week. Is that Ira Helfand next week?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
that's Jeremy Love next week, June 8th. He works with Ira. Whether Ira's coming on or not, we're not sure, but
Okay,
he's
but
going to
we
try.
will be revisiting this issue next week. Maybe you can both join us again. And of course, we are linking now the whole issue. In my world, the question is, why do you need a nuclear bomb when you got 400 nuclear power plants around the world? And in the last month or so, more and more of the atomic reactors have been come on fire, under fire. Let's put it that way. And it's a terrifying situation. So we're going to be discussing that next week as well. But Clara, what the your nominations for the Oscar? What film was that you were nominated for?
It was The Most Dangerous Man in America, Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. Also the Emmy, and we won the Peabody and about 20 international film festivals.
And how can people see that, Judy? Where is it available?
It's on our website, mostdangerousman.org. That is org, and I can put that in there as well. But it's also we've got a European distributor who's putting it up on YouTube, and I don't know if it's there yet. I haven't checked recently, but it will soon be on YouTube.
Revisit this next week and let's re-up these links so that everybody we do a follow-up.
Great.
I do have one question for you.
Yes.
Richard Nixon called Daniel Ellsberg the most dangerous man in America. Is that correct?
Yes, and so did Kissinger. And it's like, where does that come from? I think Kissinger actually said it first.
But didn't Nixon also call Timothy Leary the most dangerous man in America, or am I mistaken?
Oh, I don't know about that. He could have. I think he was, he was certainly dangerous too, but not as dangerous as Dan to Nixon, I think.
Well, I did. I met and was arrested with Dan Ellsberg. I also met and had dinner with Tim Leary. He didn't seem dangerous to me, but what can I? Neither one of them seemed dangerous to me. But what can I tell
Dan
you?
did not seem dangerous. He seemed kind and lovely. And
Daniel Ellsberg was anything but dangerous.
Well, and one thing you should know, Harvey, is that the city of Berkeley later this year is naming a street for Dan Ellsberg.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
We're going to have a big celebration when they do that. It's been driven largely by Jackie Cabasso and the Western States Legal Foundation team to make that happen. And we'll do a screening of a number of Judy's films with Dan at that time. But when we know that date of that, we'll let you know. Maybe you can choose that to make your way up to the northern part.
I think what I'll do is I'll come down and I'll lay down in the street and get arrested. How's that sound? Okay.
It would be perfect. I'll hold your coat.
Great, wonderful. Well, it's an honor to have you both with us. And Claire, it's great to see you again. And John Steiner, thank you for helping to make this happen. So we have the link in the chat. We will tune into the film on Thursday, and we'll have you back next week for a follow-up.
Thank you so much.
Can I just jump in here to let you know that we have Denise Duffield from Physicians for Social Responsibility, who will be appearing on our California Solartopia show, hosted by none other than Sonny Wasserman, and she'll be coming up in June later this month to talk about the Back from the Brink project.
Fantastic. That they're an incredibly wonderful, growing new movement with 26 hubs, as I said, around the country, and we're thrilled.
Let me just say one thing I meant to say, which is this really started with Norman Solomon and Roots Action and their organization Defuse Nuclear War, which we launched a while back, and it started as a little podcast and evolved into this film.
All right, great, wonderful. Well, thank you both. And please stick with us now. We're going to take a deep dive into this upcoming election and all the in all its complications. And we have
Thank
you. Thank you both.
I have to run.
Ruth Strauss had a question. I don't know if she's trying to get
in. Ruth, are you still there?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, the Ellsberg film, The Most Dangerous Man, is absolutely riveting. It's wonderful. Anybody who hasn't seen it, it is a must see. If only for that scene where he's at the old-fashioned Xerox machine, and how he 7,000 pages is just,
Yes, they
beyond
had to
belief.
build that Xerox machine.
But I wanted to tell you all, I just tried to do the Ordinary Insanity, your link, both with the Brave browser as well as with the Firefox browser, and it wouldn't load. So
did you get it? I put it incorrectly at first with org.
okay, I'll scroll down. Thank you. Okay, thank you guys for your wonderful work.
Thank you so
Harvey,
much
for bringing them on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank John Steiner, and this is great. And now we're going to go. That was very uplifting and enlightening. Now we're going to go to a deep dive into. We're going to start with Georgia. We got the great Ray McClendon with us, followed by Ray Lutz and John Brakey and a number of others, Bob Fatrakis, and I don't know who else is with us from the election protection movement, but this is serious stuff. I mean, it's all on our minds. We're all
Alison
seeing
Greene.
these polls. Sorry, Steve?
Alison Greene.
Oh, hi, Alison. Great to have you with us. And anybody else, please identify Steve. But, we're all seeing these polls. These guys are getting on the air and telling us how unpopular the guy in the White House is. And we are nonprofit, so we're not taking a stand on it. And then I think a lot of people are assuming that's going to mean whatever it's going to mean in the fall. But we have fungible elections in this country, and I don't mean to say they're FUN. They're going to be. It's going to be a real crapshoot, if I can use that word, to see if we're actually going to get a reasonably accurate vote count that reflects the will of the American public come this fall. And I want to start with the great activist in the swing state, pivotal state of Georgia, Ray McClendon. There has been so much going on in Georgia around the conduct of this election. Ray, can you just open the door for us, and then we'll go.
Well, let me start out.
Yes.
By first saying that since the Supreme Court decision in Louisiana versus Calais, we've all seen the dramatic shift to redistrict in the South, and Georgia is no exception to that. The Governor Kemp called for a special session of the legislature immediately after the Calais decision, which will start on June 17th and will run likely until July 3rd or possibly longer. During that session, they intend to introduce new maps that would likely take one or more of our Black congressional districts that will be potentially be erased, as well as some of our state legislative races. Don't ever forget about the state legislative races that will be impacted in these different jurisdictions across the South. Some people have estimated that we could lose, several hundred state and local legislators by virtue of redistricting across the South, as well as half of the Congressional Black Caucus. So it could mean losing a seat or two of Black representation based upon what we anticipate the redistricting will look like. So we're going to fight that. We plan on having a variety of tactics that we're going to put into play for this, and we're already working on strategy for the special session. The special session will also likely take up a bill that was passed 2 years ago that would eliminate QR codes from the ballots. In Georgia, we have voting by machines, where the machines tabulate your selections, and then it prints out a paper ballot. But what is read by the scanners, the secure scanners in the voting precincts, is a QR code. So they're going to attempt to get rid of the QR code based upon a 2024 law that was passed. But they have not sorted out the logistics on that and how that would operate. There have been proposals in this past legislative session to go to straight paper ballots. There's also been proposals to merely get rid of the QR codes and print and scan out all of the selections, and then there've been also legislation just to delay the implementation of this QR code legislation beyond July 1st of this year. So that's going to be a significant voting regulation priority that we've got to make sure we stay on top of to ensure that it does not become another voter suppression tactic. So that's the start of our summer. We know that it's likely that the redistricting maps that MAGA puts forward is going to be accepted. We're going to fight it with what power we can, but they have the majorities. And we expect that it's going to be an uphill struggle to keep from having some of our Black representation taken away. So that's the backdrop and the framework that we'll be working on starting at the middle of June.
Wow, man, just to remind everybody, the term gerrymandering, in case you don't know, and most of you probably do, comes from the name Elbridge Gerry. He was the governor of Massachusetts in 1812, and he got hold of the ability to set the districts. And he was a Jefferson Republican, as opposed to a Hamiltonian, although Hamilton was gone by then. And he set up all the districts in Massachusetts to favor his party. And they were so tortured in their geographical expression that the pundits of the time said they looked like salamanders. And so the term became gerrymander, just for the record. Now, in addition to gerrymandering, what we're facing now is for 2026, and add to this list if you can or want to, and then we'll take it from there. We have the voter suppression, which Greg Powers has beautifully documented in his book Vigilantes Inc. We have an increasingly aggressive federal Trumpist attack on voter lists. And the federal apparatus is now trying to get a hold of all the voter lists in the country. And we see a backdrop with Elon Musk and the use of computers to manipulate the voter lists wherever it can be done. We also have intimidation, again, which was shown in Greg Powers' Vigilantes Inc., which Ruth Strauss has glowingly reviewed on our calls. And we also, in the backdrop of the whole situation, have the influence of money. You know, God knows what the tsunami of money that's going to pour in the coming months to 2026 is going to do. Clearly, it will be used to buy gargantuan amounts of television advertising, but it will also, in the darker corners, impact the vote count. It will impact the distribution of ballots. God knows what else it can do. And so these are things that we're facing coming up to the 2026 election. And again, you know, the unlimited amount of money is just terrifying to all of us. We just had an election in Kentucky in a primary where the Thomas Massey was essentially eliminated. I look at the numbers and I just wonder who really won that election. I mean, come on. And for those of you who are maybe amused by this, I just a few minutes ago on somewhere, maybe Facebook, saw a picture of Thomas Massey with his wife on vacation with Marjorie Taylor Greene and her husband
There you go.
somewhere in the Bahamas.
Well,
I mean, wherever it was, they could have been right behind me with this.
Al Harvey, Allison has experience in Kentucky, right? Allison, I mean, she checked out her flagship issue was McConnell's
All right. Well,
re-election.
that's the categories I've got. Ray Lutz is going to jump in. John Brakey will jump in. But Allison, since you're talking to us from Kentucky, and by the way, right now, my money for the next president could be on Andy Beshear, your governor. I think he's a likely candidate. But anyway, tell us about what happened in this election, in this primary in Kentucky, where Trump purged Thomas Massey.
Got it. So, well, for full disclosure, I'm not in Kentucky. I just investigate in Kentucky.
Okay.
And I started investigating actually after the 2020 election because I didn't believe that Mitch McConnell had the amazing win that he had in 2020. And so I did a deep dive into the numbers in Kentucky, and I found two things in the 2020 election. One was when I actually looked at the data, the raw data, and I sorted it, I could actually see a pattern where Mitch McConnell had resounding wins in places he had never won before. And when I actually looked at those particular counties, I found that only 20% of the voting machines in Kentucky were ES&S machines, but all of the machines where Mitch McConnell had outstanding, phenomenal major wins were with ES&S machines. So that kind of started my foray into election interference back then in Kentucky. But I also noticed a trend with the registration numbers. And I most recently have been actually looking at the registration numbers in very, very minute detail. And I started it this time in Florida. But this Florida story will also explain the Kentucky and the Massey purge, and purge being a very good word for it. Through my research, what we have been finding is you mentioned before Nixon, and I will go back to the Watergate days and say that was when people used to listen to Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward wrote an interesting book in 2020 called Rage, where, if I can actually quote, he said the NSA and CIA had evidence, highly classified, that the Russians had placed malware in the election registration system in at least two counties in Florida, St. Lucie County and Washington County. I happen to be sitting in St. Lucie County right now, and my interest was because I was actually seeing the numbers of people looked as though they were being purged and they were being added in Florida. And this was the same trend that I had seen in Kentucky in 2020. So what we've actually realized is he describes in the book exactly how it's being done. He said the Russian malware was sophisticated and could be activated in counties with particular demographics. For instance, in areas with higher percentages of Black residents, the malware could erase every 10th voter, almost certainly reducing the total vote count for Democrats. The same could potentially be activated to reduce Trump votes in Republican districts. This is from a section of Rage, page 116 to 117, if anybody wants to look it up, where the intelligence community was actually gathered just past the Helsinki moments, where Trump stood with Putin and said, I believe Putin, he has given me no reason to doubt him. The intelligence people gathered in the Situation Room in 2018. And this is from Bob Woodward's reporting, where he explains this Russian malware that could delete 1 in every 10 votes. I actually
is this malware named for Melania?
Well, we can call it that if you'd like. The Melania malware who is sitting supposedly in St. Lucie County and deleting 1 in every 10 votes. That was being reported on in 2018. But what I did in the 2024 election was they said, and I'll round up the numbers for a second here. They said, okay, we have 250,000 people in St. Lucie County. So I said, please give me the voter records of all 250,000. And they couldn't produce them. They produced records, but it appeared as though 10.0008% of the records were missing. And so in 2018, the Situation Room got told, or Trump got told in the Situation Room about the Melania malware that can take out 1 in 10 votes in St. Lucie County. And in 2024, I found 1 in 10 votes that had disappeared from the records, which is illegal to do. Now,
So,
yes,
well, you requested records.
I
John
did.
Brakey,
These are all public records.
well, but John Brakey in Arizona, and by the way, I'm compiling this list. We have gerrymandering, we have messing with the turnout, we have voter lists, we have intimidation, we have money.
Ghost
Anybody want
voters.
to add to this list? Please do.
Yeah.
Ghost voters.
Ghost voters are the other side of the equation.
What is it?
Ghost voters.
Oh, ghost voters. Okay.
So
So-
she's come up. Go ahead.
Sure. So not only are they deleting the votes, but the turnout would look completely odd in these demographics. So what they're doing is they're also putting in ghost voters, which are fraudulent voter registrations that can cast real ballots. And so the system will actually count the ballots of the ghost voters while deleting the actual real people, 1 out of 10 in certain areas.
Ray McClendon in Georgia. Does this sound familiar?
Honestly, I don't know that that's the problem that we have here, but this is out of my purview. I yield to Raymond.
If
Well-
I may actually connect it back to Georgia, you have in the deposition of Jack Smith, special counsel Jack Smith, when he had the closed door testimony back in December 17th of 2025, what they actually asked him is Jamie Raskin said, none of this, the evidence that we saw gave us a reason to actually indict Trump for a violation of the voting rights. How did you come up with it? And Jack Smith himself pointed to Georgia, and he pointed to the Georgia phone call where in that 2020 phone call, Trump was saying, find me 11,780 votes. And what Jack Smith said is finding votes like that is actually illegal. And what he said is that he had witnesses who actually could attest to the fact that they were trying to delete and get rid of votes in certain areas as well. And so the evidence that Jack Smith investigated, he couldn't speak to because it's part of volume 2 of Jack Smith's report, which is under the purview of the DOJ and Eileen Cannon and is not for our eyes, apparently. But he, in that deposition, pointed directly to Georgia, but I don't think anybody else is reporting on this. So it's not necessarily a surprise that Ray hasn't heard about it. It's new.
Well, Lynn Feinerman has her hand up. Lynn, we'll go to you in a minute if it's okay, because I want to report. Alison, you said you went for public records in Florida. John Brakey went for public records in Arizona, and tell him what happened, John.
I got sued.
Yes,
for
I
asking
know.
for him, and it's twice. And Alison, it's a real pleasure to finally see you and meet you. I know we need to get together and talk.
Yes.
But when it comes to ghost voters and things like that, when I first got involved in the very beginning in the 2000 election, I did a study on my own precinct, and I found things that were so bizarre. Is that a father and son with the same name, one would vote this way. People had 8 people in their house, and I'd go by the house and look and go, no way. And I've always wanted to go deep dive, but I've been always so because I was so deeply involved with the D-bolt system, I knew how bad the D-bolt system was because I was a beta test site in Mexico for the same platform, and I knew about the back door. And another thing we just talked about is this thing in Kentucky is a mind blower, okay? And, I see a situation there that, my God, I mean, the Republican, well, both of them were Republicans, of course, is Massey had a huge turnout at his party and everybody, and then on the other side, there was hardly anybody there. And the guy spent $35 million, okay?
Except if he
and
had
I know
ghost
that
voters.
these databases are so simple because, I built a program that works with the database, okay? And my God, it'd be easy to flip. Has anybody checked that? Has anybody actually filed a records request or got with the candidate and say, like we're doing with Benny Smith in Tennessee, is that, do you think you could file a record request for 2 records and get them to Ray and me, ballot images in the cast vote record database? It would be very easy. And if you take the images and match it up to the database is the vulnerable part of the whole system. At least from the work that I do, okay? It would be very easy. Just think of it this way. If you know how to cut and paste, well, you could just go ahead and switch the races real quick. Now, if somebody was to look and do a really good study, they'd probably find by precincts that there's no way that could have happened in this precinct because that's where Massey lives. But if you know what you're doing, you can adjust for that. You really could.
Amazing. Alison, I know you want to say, we'll go to Lynn and then Ray Lutz. Go ahead, Alison.
Sure. I was just going to let you know we have been asking for the records in Kentucky. We have gone to 25 different counties so far. Each one of them has referred us back to the state. The state is charging an exorbitant amount for it. But we actually have compiled currently about 30 million records, of which there's 90 million different records, but 30 million voters records. And we're finding stuff all over the country. We found in Texas a person who was supposedly a real legitimate voter whose first name was Mr., and that is Mister. Their last name was X. Their gender is actually female, ironically enough, and they live on Fake Point, which is a street that doesn't exist. So that's what we call a ghost voter. Mr. X had a Madam X as well, an August X, and a Daniel X. There was a whole X family.
We've also had apparently, a ton of ghost counties. Weren't there entire counties that were registered that didn't exist? Ray Lutz, I think you said something about that.
I wanted to talk about that actually.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn Feinerman, and then Ray. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you. The ghost counties, I think everybody remembers that Elon Musk did that big yah-yah voting America PAC where he was going to give people $1 million and they could register on his PAC. Millions of people went there and gave him their information, all their information. Not one person was registered. What he did was he got data banks. Now, T and This Will Hold are the people whose work you need to check out on this. The voter banks, the fake fraudulent voter banks, were then used to plug in to elections and take out votes for Kamala Harris in 2024. That was assisted and hidden by the fact that Elon Musk put 10,000 satellites, new satellites, into space in just before the 2024 election. And that's when, of course, he said to Ashley St., whatever her name is, I feel much more confident about the elections now that those satellites are in space. And what they did was, for example, in so-called Burke County, Florida, they had a breakthrough, a supposed election commentary site, had this big chart on its screen while they were commenting on why Burke County went so heavily for Trump. In Florida, well, number one, there is no Burke County in Florida. Okay, Let
And this,
let that sink in. And number two, the amount of votes that they said were given for Trump were actually the amount of votes of the entire Florida election. Okay. What happened meanwhile, while they were putting out all this fake crap on the TV for people to watch, who don't know how to evaluate the charts anyway, what they were doing was they were in one county, T and this will hold, have followed this through and found that they took over 6 million votes to the number, to the exact number, out of early and mail-in votes in a bona fide county, and slotted in the exact number for Trump. So they took Kamala's votes out, over 6 million, and put in Trump's votes, who were fake, all of them. It was a fake county vote bank. And they are, by the day, unraveling these threads so that we can know finally and for sure that the 2024 election was stolen by Musk, by Peter Thiel, Palantir, by Leonard Leo, Scott Leyendecker, every single one of the voting machine owner operators is a right-wing Republican, heavily into control through the Heritage Foundation. They are totally on board with Project 2025, and they are bound and determined to control our elections so that they're not democratic at all. Thank you.
Well, let's go to Ray Lutz. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Lynn to announce her terrific podcast so people know to hear more from her.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we are profiling T and this will hold, and Marilyn Marks, who is a wonderful voter protection advocate, in our next upcoming program for Women Rising Radio. You can go and check us out at womenrisingradio.com. Thank you.
And I want to mention now, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Lynn. In the litany of what we face now, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere I read that the state of Delaware is now allowing actual corporations to cast ballots. Now, I don't know how they do that, and maybe it's a myth, but or maybe it was maybe it came from the Onion.
Small town in Delaware that's doing this.
Well, who goes in and casts the ballot for the corporation?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it's a mail-in ballot that never
sounds to me like it might have come
hopefully.
from the Onion, but who knows? But anyway, if you have another category to add to the things that we're going to have to watch in 26, please do. Ray Lutz, let's hear from you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Ray Lutz with citizensoversight.org if you want to visit the website. So yeah, all of these things are really concerning. Fortunately, we had, roll back the clock to the year 2000. We had punch cards. We had the punch card fiasco in Florida. But punch cards were paper, and they were able to recount them eventually and show that Gore probably would have won. But at that point, 9/11 had happened just like a week earlier, and Bush was already up on the pile with his megaphone, and nobody was interested. So we went into these paperless machines for about 20 years, up to 20 years. Finally, Georgia turned the corner in 2020 and got rid of the paperless machines. So most of these things whether it's satellites or, why would you spend money on a satellite if you can just put a Wi-Fi hot point, cell phone hotspot next to the, election office and hack them that way? There's many ways that you could do it, but any of the hacking of the machine theoretically can be checked by the paper. But that's only if you look at it and check it to see if it matches the true record or the official count. And if you don't look at the paper like they did in Pennsylvania, they decided to check the paper, but only for the state treasurer's race instead of the Harris-Trump race. So they decided to check an easier race and then say, well, we checked this one race, therefore all of the races are covered. And we know that it was all good. I'm sorry, but checking one race doesn't check another one. But I want to bring your attention to one serious thing that's come up. And that is now, and of course, there's nothing off the table for Trump and his people. They will do anything possible to try to win this next election. And they can maybe confiscate ballots. The FBI can maybe be employed for that. They can do the Musk kind of campaigns, rewarding people $1 million if they vote a certain way, et cetera. It's just so many things. But this is new. This is where they have asked the U.S. Postal Service to get a list of all of the voters in the area that are going to be planning to vote and will be then what they're going to do is filter the ballots that are going through the post office. And these ballots will be potentially sidelined or destroyed if it's not on the list. Well, if you start allowing the Postal Service to filter the ballots at the whim of Trump and his people, then guess what? It's never going to even be put into the system. It's never going to get scanned. There's no ballot images to check. We're back where we started, back with paperless machine, but even worse, because now they're going to be sidelining. So what do we do against this? And one of the things that we're trying to promote, and I'm going to come out with a Substack today, probably later on, which is to store backups of the data, 2 backups with every election. We've already sent letters to every state asking them to do this. 2 backups of all of the images and all of the other data that they have on thumb drives in safes and other buildings. So if the FBI comes and grabs everything, they can grab maybe one of them, but then they can say, no, you don't need both of them. And then we can recover from that potentially. And also sign up for tracking your mail ballot if you vote by mail, so you can see if it's being sent or not or sidelined. That's another way. And almost all the states have that now. But this is going to be a severe problem if actually they get away with this. But it brings to mind to me that this may already be happening. You know, we saw in our analysis of Las Vegas in Nevada was that all of the Democratic leaning precincts had really low turnout. Way lower than the red leaning precincts. Not that the Democratic voters didn't show up. None of them showed up. It's like they said, okay, it's that precinct. I don't know how they're going to vote with this sideline of all of the ballots, and we're not going to receive those. So there's a potential risk there. I just wanted to point out to everyone. And if there's any Pennsylvania voters, I'll post a little meme. Please contact me. I need you to be part of our campaign to get the data now. Now, the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania ruled that cast vote records, and we hope also extends to ballot images, will be available for people to ask for. But you have to be a resident and actually a voter in this county that is asking for it. And so I can't do it myself, but I can have other people on the list and they can ask for it and say, I'm representing those people. And here's a list of names, and then hopefully that'll work. But if it doesn't, then we're going to go there and get the people to walk in and do it themselves. So let me know, and I'll put a little link for you to send the information to me if you're a resident. You know people in Pennsylvania too. Okay, thanks a lot.
I'd like to add something what Ray just said, because he's so right, and I think Ray would agree with this. We don't really have any audits going on in this country that are worth anything. Okay. I go into election departments and they tell me, I ask them, well, gee, how do you know that your data is good? Oh, Mr. Brakey, you must be a conspiracy theorist. We run a logic and accuracy test before and after every election. That doesn't mean anything. It only tells you it's working right at one moment. Okay. I mean, it is so bizarre. And that's where, I've just put a series out. The third one I just launched 45 minutes ago. It's called the Cassandra conspiracy. Well, if you don't know who Cassandra was, 2,500 years ago, she was a princess in Troy, and she had an affair supposedly with Apollo, and he gave her the ability to see the future. And then she must have done something wrong or had an affair with somebody, and then he turned around and cursed her and said, "Okay, you still have the ability to do that, but nobody will believe you."
Right. Was that Apollo Creed? That one? Anyway.
I don't think it was there 2,500 years ago, but I don't think so. But the point I'm trying to say is that we really got to go after these ballot images, cast vote record databases.
There has got to be
verify, because elections are not any good unless they're transparent, trackable, and publicly verified. Other than that, they can do
as they say, from your lips to God's ears. We got 70 people with us. We've just been joined by Lori Grace, also a great election protection advocate. But the bottom line is we need a clear a guide to protecting this election. I mean, we've also got this ghost voter issue is good. And, I was talking with Ray McClendon earlier. We know that there's going to be a tsunami of money coming in now, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, because it's the same thing the Ellisons have discovered in destroying CBS. You can make more money from Donald Trump and the government by destroying CBS than you can by running CBS as a business, right? I mean, that's the bottom line here. The same thing with the election. What are these hundreds of millions of dollars going to buy? Well, we know they're going to buy tons and tons of airtime, of political advertising, right? But it's got to go deeper than that. And we've seen all these manipulations at the level of casting ballots and getting the votes counted. And we need a systematic document, a clear document that's going to tell people what to do to counteract this kind of stuff. And I will say personally, I was horrified the day after the 24 election when Kamala Harris just packed up and went away and said nothing about all the possible manipulations that were clearly obvious in the 24 vote count, which I want to hear about in a minute. Alison Greene, go ahead. Then Steve Caruso, and then Mike Hirsch and Ruth Strauss. We'll keep going here.
Okay.
And by the way, we're going to blow right through the top of the hour. I basically set this for 2 hours so that we can really deal with this, because this is what's facing us all. Go ahead, Alison Greene.
Great. Yes. So I wanted to address two things. One is Raymond's point about the mail and the U.S. Postal Service.
Yes, the mail.
This is actually a really important point, because this is one of the targets of the initial Trump administration was the United States Postal Service. We all saw he kind of took it over. And one of the things is I'll point to a recent case in Florida that many people don't know about, but I recently talked about in my series. And by the way, if you want any of the background, I try to link to everything and give all factual information. My Substack is It's Up to Us. It's Up to Us, Substack.com. And the most recent one, I kind of highlighted this Pinellas County, Florida court case, which was the Department of Justice about 11 days, not about, 11 days after Trump's inauguration in 2024. In Pinellas County, the DOJ brought an indictment against two individuals, a Russian national and an Uzbek national. And what they had found is that there had been a 2-year investigation into these two, because they had actually created 132 what I call ghost voters, fraudulent voters. And the way they caught them is because they would be claiming that they lived at these real addresses in Pinellas County, Florida. But what they were doing was putting in change of address cards in the background. And so what the United States Postal Inspector spoke about in his affidavit in his court records is that they traced back these 132 fraudulent voters. The one I actually refer to in the latest column was Foster Haugen. Foster Haugen was a made-up entity by this Russian national and Uzbek national, and the mail was being forwarded from the address of Foster Haugen. It was being forwarded to another address where the Russian national would pick it up. Sorry,
I don't know where that's coming from.
So what they did was the 132 ghost voters, they had their mail actually through change of address cards directed to 3 locations where the Russian national would pick them up and the Uzbek national would pick them up. They would change the address and put in the ballot, and that's how you got the ballots into the systems through ghost voters. So when Raymond talks about mail, it's a very important part, because I saw the same exact thing that John, you were talking about, which is that you go to houses and there will be no house there. I recently came across, I actually go walking all the time on this place called Community Boulevard. I looked at the voter records. I see a house on Community Boulevard. I walk there all the time. There are no houses on Community Boulevard. So I looked it up. There's 187 voter records tied to houses on Community Boulevard. They're not in the property records. They're not on Google search. And I walk by these supposed houses and they're not there. So they're putting in fraudulent applications through the US Postal Service. And now they're actually potentially going to be taking out the real votes from the United States Postal Service.
Well, the question then becomes, what is the real substance? What's the real mission of Trump's attack on vote by mail?
So, number one
Raymond,
is...
well, go ahead, Alison. Ray, go ahead real quick, Alison, and then let Ray speak to that.
Oh, okay. So here's what I think. We had this this gal come on who was the ex-wife of Musk, and said it's the satellites and the lasers. I think you can't trust anything that they say. It's probably not it. It's probably something else. But I'll tell you what I am concerned about, and that is Musk came from PayPal. You go to any of these payment processing firms, you got to give up your everything. You got to give them your passport, your driver's license, your social security number, everything. Give a liveness check. Take pictures of yourself. It's horrible. You wonder, like, what are they going to do with all this information? They could probably simulate me very, very well and take over my entire life. And guess what? They also have in all of these social media platforms, many personas. In fact, there's a whole software packages that allow people to take on many different personas on these things and act like they're different people, fight with each other, have conversations and they call it sock puppeting, where you have little sock puppets. And so there's a term for that in the internet world, where you're making these people up. Well, the problem is that I think we have a big concern here about making up voters. And either you have these that happen to be kind of like junk voters on the list and using them for it. The big concern, of course, is not whether they're registered. It's whether those people are voting. Like, did Mr. X submit a ballot? Now I'm concerned. Because that should never happen.
And the answer is no, Mr. X didn't, but August X did. In the 2024 election, he put in a ballot and he voted in the 2024 election, except he didn't register to vote until 2025. So explain to me how that happens. So the issue is they're in those records and they're not accurate.
So look what they're doing. Palantir and Musk and all this, they're making these vast databases of everybody. They know everything that we're doing. And even if they don't modify the results in those offices, if they can get a look at what's going on, like how the voting is happening, then they can decide whether to turn off the mail and so forth and bring it on. But I think that Trump's big campaign against mail is so that he potentially can say, okay, one of my guys is losing. I told you to get rid of mail ballots. They're all fraudulent. FBI, go in there and seize the ballots, and let's do it ourselves, because we can't rely upon you at all. And so we're going to take over now they go in, seize the ballots, take them out into the thing, and we're off in a situation where we have a very difficult problem especially if they seize them very early before they're scanned or anything. And of course, I'm advocating for those backups. But this thing about faking voters, coming up with personas that don't exist, getting them registered, getting ballots for them, and potentially having them vote. Very hard to track. Okay, well, those are some of my concerns. I've got tons of them.
We gotta.
As
I do
I
have.
say with John, like some may call me as conspiracy theorist, but we both know we're conspiracy factualists. The conspiracies do happen, and every corporate boardroom, that's considered a conspiracy because they're working in the same direction, and that's how people work here. They're going to have conspiracies, so we got to look
Okay,
for
well, Steve Caruso, then Mike Hirsch, and Ruth Strauss.
Yeah.
And Dave
Remember
Saltman.
election night.
We have 70 people with us.
If I could just add one thing into that, because of what he was talking about, you know, when I first got started in this 20 years ago, I got into Pima County and I got their audit logs. And I went back and I got all the databases going back maybe like 8 years. I had like 700 databases. And I found that in every one that on the first day of voting and they start counting, that they would print a report and get the results. And those results are polling data. It tells them how much they got to hack, how much they got to stuff, because they work with the rule of large numbers. Once you have 30,000 votes in, you see a trend. And that trend usually will, once it gets so far, it will just stay right there. And that is a very big concern. And that means, like I said, elections are no good unless they're transparent, trackable, and publicly verified by the public.
Well, it's of course you've been indicted for doing that.
I guess I have, and I've been harassed in a couple of states and been sued. You know, it's nice to be me. You know,
Steve Caruso, and then Mike Hirsch, and then Ruth Strauss.
Love you, John. Thanks for all your hard work through the years, the decades here. DDHQ does election reporting on election night. Okay, who is a great interest to that organization is Rubio's IT guy, Tarrant, right? Is that right, Alison? And so they get out there and there's reports of numbers being subtracted. So they'll come up with a number and you say, oh, good, they're at that point. And then you come back later and all of a sudden they're minus like 20,000 votes. And this has been reported regularly with screenshots, so forth and so on. So this is a grand RICO conspiracy. And also now the vote.gov sites are being changed. They've got a designer. I saw a whole video where they've got designs up and you can go there and look at them, but they haven't been implemented yet from what I understand. But vote.gov is being manipulated into something or morphed into something we have no idea what's going to happen. And money in the politics, like gerrymandering, dilutes the votes of the purveyors. So let's, just like, when they gerrymander out the yin yang, it makes it harder for them to win. So I don't know. Thanks.
Well, the bottom line is, of course, gerrymander can backfire. There's a lot of talk about that. Ray, maybe, they gerrymander out of existence, allegedly, these black majority districts, and then they miscalculate. Everybody's talking about that in Texas. There was a major gerrymander done in Texas, but the Republicans assumed that the Hispanic vote would be all Republican. And now there's
it could potentially, but you're absolutely right. It could potentially backfire. I think it's the likelihood of it backfiring is greater where the gerrymanders are looking to change districts and assume they'll get the same level of Hispanic support that they got in 2024. And I think they're in for a rude awakening on Hispanic support. It's not so that's huge in Texas, maybe in Florida, but not as much so in Georgia as those two states. That what they're looking to do in Georgia is, as they did in Memphis, is to carve up the black vote and disperse the black vote. So it's a direct racial gerrymander, as it was in Tennessee, and that's what they're looking to do. Racial gerrymander toward black voters, because we're a third of the vote in Georgia, and that's what they want to dilute.
Wow. Mike Hirsch, did you want to jump in, and then Ruth Strauss?
Yes, thank you, Sonny. I've got a quick question for you, John, and a quick question for you, Allison. John, I'm just going to ask you for your judgment call. Based on the local election officials that you have worked with and spoken with, are they unaware that computer hacking is a thing? Are they like technophobes, or what is your take on why they're so skeptical about these vulnerabilities that you can prove to them?
That's an interesting question. And, and I've come up with two theories. One is elections are very complicated, and, election day can be crazy. So much stuff happens. They really don't want to go into doing audits because a good elections administrator is an administrator who knows how to hide all the warts. When you have administrators like that, you have to, and they're successful because they hide everything or deny, keep records away. Okay. They could have an accident and flip an election. They won't tell anybody because they're afraid if they show white feathers that they'll be further attacked. And I see that, especially with election directors who've been in the industry. And in the Cassandra series, I cover that very heavily. And I just posted the 3 parts of the Cassandra, 1, 2, and 3, because if you go through there, you're going to really go, oh my God, this thing is worse than I thought. I've spent a lot of time, studying this for the last 20 years. And my analysis is, if we don't wake up and start demanding transparency, which is a solution, which is that's the only way. It's no good. It's that easy to hack so many different ways.
Right. John, so your sense is that they don't want people looking over their shoulders in case they made a boo-boo, and
that's what they would like to say, and they don't want to find any boo-boos either. Okay.
Right.
Well, here's the question, but the question is, with all this money rolling around here,
well, Sonny,
hundreds of millions of dollars.
Another quick question for Allison before we move on.
All right,
Allison,
well, wait, let me. All right, go ahead. Let me just. All right, go ahead, John. Go ahead,
Allison. The fact pattern that you put out with these ghost voters, that is fraud. That is breaking the law.
Absolutely.
To your knowledge, have these people been investigated? Have they been prosecuted or punished? Or is this just, just let me know what's going on with that?
Yeah, I would love to. So, for example, the Pinellas County, the DOJ brought this case 11 days after the inauguration of Trump. And the arrests were made of these 2 individuals for legitimately conspiracy to defraud the United States. These were serious, serious felonies. And it actually, they were arrested 2 days before Pam Bondi took over the DOJ. And what happened is that it kept getting kind of quietly, it disappeared. So these 2 individuals, the Russian national and the Uzbek national, who were actually indicted by the DOJ for fraud against the United States, they were actually sentenced. The Uzbekistan national was given 6 months of time served, $100 fine, and a free flight back to Uzbekistan. And that was based on the DOJ. There have been other cases. There was a Nevada couple that the prior DOJ before Pam Bondi also brought charges against a Nevada couple, that both of the Nevada, a man and a woman, were being paid, and they had created 500 fraudulent voters that were put into the rolls and then caught. And they actually were then charged. And when the Trump DOJ and Pam Bondi took it over, that case also The sentencing for them, they pled guilty, but the sentencing was 2 years of probation and $100 fine. They didn't have anywhere to deport them to. They're
Right,
probably
and
still in
they
Nevada.
got a free ticket to Jamaica. So, the bottom line here is, what are we going to do about this? I mean, all the hundreds of millions of dollars that are pouring into the 26th election, they're not all going to go for TV advertising. There's got to be, as we're now seeing this term repeatedly, a slush fund that's going to go into buying these computers and buying these election officials one way or the other.
And the
We have no
websites and
track record. We have no track record from either major party of getting to the bottom of election fraud. I mean, the Democrats have never done it. The Republicans obviously don't do it. What? I'm still. I want to hear what's going to happen to all this money.
Harvey,
Strauss.
we have Laurie Grace here.
Yeah,
okay?
Laurie's here
and
too.
she needs to turn. If she can turn her video on, that would be great. But
go ahead. But Bruce, Laurie, want to raise your hand? We'll be glad to hear from you. Laurie's one of the great activists here on the election issue. Ruth Strauss and Dave Saltman. Ruth, go ahead.
Yeah, Harvey, you've put together a fantastic group today. You do all the time, but this is really great. One quick thing, this isn't what I really wanted to get to, but Raphael Warnock, said that one thing one can do is contribute to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which I did, and I got a great T-shirt that says in big bold letters, "A black vote was suppressed today." So if you want to get a summer T-shirt, go for it. Anyway, what I wanted to know is, just the other day I saw something about Trump trying to order the USPS as to who could receive a mail-in ballot. And that was just like a 5-alarm fire, but I don't know what's happened with that, who's on it, what we need to do. So thank you for providing all these brilliant people to help.
Well, they provided themselves, and thank you for that, Ruth. But this has got to be systematized. We can't go in, we never hear from the Democrats. Republicans have a different agenda. And like I say, we go to 2000 and Al Gore, 2004 and John Kerry, 2010 and the off-year, I can't say the name on air, unfortunately, that election, the 2016 in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, where Hillary Clinton just walked away. And then the 24, I've heard, I think from you, Ray, that there was a uniform, just beyond the recount limit on the margins of victory in the 7 swing states, and maybe that's apocryphal. I don't know, but when I hear the name Mark Elias, I go to sleep. I mean, he's done these lawsuits, but where are we in a situation where we rely on a reliable vote count and a reliable turnout in 2026? I think we're on really shaky ground. Dave Saltman, as a lifelong TV reporter, what do you think?
I am overwhelmed by the quality of reportage presented today, and I am stunned by the fact that I'm not reading this on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and on the front page of the New York Times. And if it were last year, I would call up my friends at 60 Minutes and say, man, have I got a hell of a story for you. But my question is, why not? Why is this not on the cover of the Atlantic? Why is this not on the cover of the New Yorker? These are still friendly people. And I just need to point out one thing. I don't know from my own knowledge whether the conspiracy theories are right or wrong. I tend to believe them. But the point is, this is the reason that the media, the press, the fourth estate is outside the government. And that's the whole point. Why? I've just written a few notes here. And these would all be amenable and capable of doing this story, especially with the, truckload of information you guys have got. ProPublica. Do you know ProPublica? Paul Steiger, former managing editor of the Wall Street Journal, is running it and doing brilliantly at it. The Wall Street Journal itself, believe it or not, I hate to think that Murdoch could be our best friend under these conditions, but it may actually be the case. The Atlantic and the New Yorker are open for this. The Toronto Globe and Mail, the Canadian paper, is really worth looking at. It's a first-class newspaper, and they've got America in their sights right now.
Well, Dave, we have our own 60 Minutes here, okay? Forget the old 60 Minutes. They're
well,
gone, right?
I'm not mentioning that. They're not on my list.
This is Creative Commons license. So anybody can share this on YouTube and get the word out.
But nobody is.
Yeah, I know.
That's the point I'm trying to make. And
Salty, what about The Guardian in the UK?
Go for it.
Like you said, the Canadian papers, they're out beyond the FCC's reach.
The real problem is the Democratic Party doesn't deal with this.
That's what it is.
Well, we have to do it. It's up to us now.
That's what Allison's sign says. It's up to us. Yeah, the Democratic Party's the dog that didn't bark, like in that Sherlock Holmes story.
They're useless. They're complicit.
Toothless and useless.
Well, the story we got in 2004, Bob Petrakis and I and others, and Greg Powers, is that the Democrats do not want to raise these issues because it discourages turnout. But, what's the point of turnout if they don't get their votes counted? I mean, nice to see you, but what's the problem? Dave, you're 100% right. We do have a website that I set up a while ago with a Grassroots US, and I think I'll revive it because there needs to be a repository. We have the great experts here, and John Brakey's been at it. Ray Lutz, Ray McClendon, Lori Grace, people have been on the case for a long time, but we can't break through. And I think the major block has been the Democratic Party and Mark Elias, who does these great show-standing lawsuits. But when election day comes, Kamala Harris gets up and says nothing. And neither did Thomas Massie, by the way. Massie did not call for a recount. I mean, come on.
He's running again, but in 2028.
But why to me, having studied elections all my life, basically, that was an election I think he won. And how can he not call for a recount, for God's sakes? How can you do that in a vote count like that? It's to walk away. I just don't get it. Dorothy Reich, you would never walk away. Of course, your name's not Renee, so what can I say? But go ahead, Dorothy Reich. Are you trying to talk to us?
Yeah, so I asked a friend who's the chief of staff of a Democrat who's in the so-called leadership, and I asked him if he had ever heard of Greg Palast, and he hadn't.
Oh, God.
I swear to God. So I suggested that they subpoena Greg Palast because he doesn't seem to want to talk to Democrats because of his 501c3 or something. And he said he would look into it, but, I would love to see Greg Palast being questioned. And even in one of those ghost hearings or whatever they call them that they have to do because they're not in power.
Right. But
he has all the stuff from 20 years ago.
Well, if anybody should be on this, it should be Jamie Raskin. He's smart enough and he knows this stuff.
I'll try to see if I can reach Jamie Raskin.
Yeah, and subpoena Ray Lutz, subpoena John Brakey if Pima County lets him out of jail. Subpoena Alison Greene. We've been on this issue for a long time. This is 20
It's amazing to me that Greg Palast is pretty much out there, much more well-known name than our friends here.
Greg just made that.
I had never heard of him. He had no idea.
It's outrageous. It's mind-boggling. And now we're seeing. I just saw a headline.
You know where we're at. Just so you understand where we're at. These people they probably don't even know who Mark Elias is either.
It's outrageous. Myra Reeson, go ahead, please.
Well, I just wanted to say that I recall pretty clearly one of the things that one of the problems. Oh, Lori, let me mute you. So okay. So I recall Mark Elias right after the last presidential election, pretty much telling people not to question the results. And that's what that's my biggest bone to pick with Mark Elias. He seemed to think that people should keep their mouths shut and move along, nothing to see here. That was the message coming from him right out of the gate. I mean, immediately he was on message saying, nothing to see here, move along. And Alison, I see you also heard him saying that same thing.
Radio silence.
That's the problem I have with Mark Elias is he goes against, he makes, he always, they're an election denier. They should not be,
Lori?
they should not be challenging the election, this sort of thing. So we got to kind of get away from saying election denier. And because we want to allow people to challenge the results and make sure that it goes all the way through the audit before they don't have to say, I give up. Like this whole thing about, oh, she did not concede in time, I want her to concede right away. No, people should not have to concede. We've got to be against that.
Well,
and they should be able to say, I'm going to wait for the results to come in. So, and I do want to say, I really want to thank Lori Grace for her activities because she knows how to put people together with getting her. So everybody, a big hand for Lori Grace. I just got to say
she's
that.
here. She's going to talk to us. I think that one thing we got to also remember, people who donate to candidates that you support, that money should go with a caveat that you cannot waste your money on these media buys. You've got to get grassroots people going door to door. And none of this money goes to the media. Elon Musk is going to outspend us, with pocket change. And the money has to go to sending people door to door to get the grassroots turnout. Lori Grace, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say from my own level, being aware that the election was stolen almost immediately, working with Lulu Friestad and Ray and others too. Anyway, I just wanted to say that for me, in terms of putting in major money, when I was hearing, for example, that the Iowa pollster lost her job and then the Iowa paper got sued for saying that Trump lost when Trump went after them, also for $15 million. And then when ABC was sued for the $25 million they paid into Trump, for the interview with the woman who said that she had been raped and different things. What I find, and again, we can hopefully find a solution to this, is fear, big time fear. And when I was working with the different election integrity people over right after the election, we were all on signal because we wanted to protect ourselves, obviously. And then some of the donations I've been able to get to some of the election integrity people like yourself, like Ray just different people. Yeah, John Brakey, and it was all done anonymously because of fear. So I think we need to bring fear up. I do want to say, when I heard the whistleblower, Elon Musk's wife, saying that Elon had wrapped up the election 4 hours before the end of election day, she's protected because she's the mother of his child, okay? And the more a whistleblower gets exposed, the more protected they are. She says she's hidden different things should something to happen to her. But I think let's take a moment to look frankly at fear, and maybe we have a solution around it. That's all.
Well,
and
thank you, Lori.
I speak for myself too.
Well, and you've been doing great. I mean, Lori's been with us since at least 2004 on this
Yes.
issue. And since we saw, and the Democrats have been saying the same thing for 20 years. And the election in Florida 2000 was clearly stolen, and their response was to scream at Ralph Nader, who had nothing to do with it. And here we are, all these years later, and we have very clear evidence in my world that the election in 24 was tampered with. I do not for a minute believe that Trump was the rightful winner. And here we are waltzing into 2026, and the same thing. It's all set up. And this tsunami of cash is not going to go to 100% of media buy. They're going to go with it elsewhere. Ray Lutz, I see you got to go. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sonny, can we have like a closing comment from Ray before he leaves?
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
We might
Ray,
have lost him.
I just will
Go ahead,
say,
McClendon.
Oh,
Go
Ray
ahead.
McClendon? Yeah.
yeah, I've got to leave. Yeah, I've got to leave. No, I just want to just reiterate, we're facing challenges on multiple fronts, and the battle is real on many of these fronts. We know that it's going to come on the federal level. It's going to come from the billionaire class, but it's also coming at the state legislative level and these state and local election boards. So we've got to stay diligent, and we've got to get these campaigns to help to fund local grassroots engagement so that local people who can be at these meetings can challenge in the state capitals, can challenge in the local election board meetings, can have the resources they need and the capacity necessary to fight these battles, because that's the only way we can win. It's not going to be done by one comprehensive effort. It's going to be by multiple efforts across a variety of fronts.
Right, and the money that goes to the grassroots candidates has to go to hire grassroots organizers. And as Ray and I talked earlier, I mean the advisor class there, these guys get paid a percentage of the money that gets wasted on the media. It's all got to go to people going door to door now, and we got to be very careful about that. And we have to have a strategy. There's no
And
strategy to deal with what we
Sonny,
know is coming at us. Go ahead.
Sonny, before Ray leaves,
Yeah.
are things back to the bad old days before the 65 Voting Rights Act, pretty much, with what the Supreme Court has done to the protections for minority voters and others?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah.
Yes.
The answer is we're on the way to that. For sure. We're not there quite yet. We're still putting up battles, but that's the objective.
Yeah.
The objective is to get us to pre-1965 in terms of voting rights and civil rights.
That's right.
Voting rights and civil rights pre-1965.
Ray, I think it's actually pre-1865.
Well, you could possibly say that as well, Harvey.
Yeah.
But we know that what they want to do is disenfranchise millions of Black voters, particularly across the South, so that the South will return to being the bulwark of the GOP. You know, we were on the road toward becoming a purple state and potentially a blue state here in Georgia, and they're scared to death by that.
That's right.
So that's why the voter suppression that you see in Louisiana, in Tennessee, in South Carolina, and Georgia is so aggressive.
Ray, if I may.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
Yes.
Sonny, Allison's trying to get in quick.
Okay, I just for the record, we still have 65 people with us. This is astounding. Go ahead, Allison.
Ray,
Thank
I
you,
do
Ray.
have a
Come back.
solution for you. So I did give you my name and number in a private chat. If you could take that down, because our database has raw data that I would love to distribute to the campaigns to help them aggressively fight back to ensure that only real votes get counted and that nobody is getting purged without their knowledge. So we have a proprietary database, and I would love to speak to you about a solution. As Sunny said, we need solutions going forward. We've got them, so hopefully you can contact me.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ray. Steve Caruso.
Allison, did you have something else earlier? Or...
So I did want to speak to a solution that we are working on, which is, and I kind of inferred it there, but we are actually creating a team. We call them the Ghost Catchers, where we're actually doing public records requests, and we're getting a lot of voter data. And that's what gave us the 90 million records altogether. And that database is very strategic to go up against the database that Trump is actually trying to build on a federal level. Because what he's doing on a federal level, he has the ability to change the data. So we're actually preserving the data through public records in a way that we can actually, if somebody finds themselves disenfranchised in 2026, we have the ability to show that they were on the voter rolls before. And so we're kind of taking different snapshots at different times. We've just been ramping up, and it's all being done strategically. We're also doing it in such a way that we can take a snapshot from the voter rolls in a certain candidate's district, and we can say, okay, in April, here is who is on the voter rolls. If somebody is missing in May, we'll be able to notice that immediately and get it to the campaign so that they can say, did you know that you were taken off the voter rolls, and people can re-register. So we want to just make sure. So we do have a plan in place where we're trying to look at working with the campaigns and giving them the information about the ghost voters we're finding who are not real people in their districts, and also the people who are being deleted in their districts, because we've got to take what we learned in 2024 and go forward to protect 2026, and we have the ability to do that now.
So I have a website available. We set it up before John Steiner was involved, Camilla Reese, and Allison, I'll share with you the link, Ray, Lori, and we can reactivate it. We need a central website where people can go to deal with what we know is coming at us. And it's 6 months away, not even.
Well, Allison, what do you guys have? I mean, you're working with Nathan and a bunch of other people. Do you guys have a central repository for a lot of this?
So yeah, Nathan and I are working together, very complementary. So our central repository is mostly on the voter rolls, and he's building tools to look at the results. So we do have the central repository, the database, all set up. But Nathan and I are also looking and speaking with various lawyers about bringing legal suits to get ahead of the midterms. So we're also looking at using these repositories to take what we've learned in 2024 and protect 2026. So, and Sunny, I would love to get those links and look at that
we'll
as
get
well.
Lori and Ray and John on the case, and we'll get this website activated with Steve, also Steve Caruso and Mike, because it's sitting there right now. It needs to be activated. Okay. All right.
If I could jump in for a second, I can't find my hand there. John Brakey.
Go for it.
Is that, after doing this for really 22 years, I'm really tired by talking about the problems. And that is where my focus is going, after solutions. And, if you read these 3 Substacks, you're not going to see me accusing anybody of fraud. I'm accusing them of not verifying elections and explaining why illogic. And I've really, really tore this thing up really hard. And if people read these 3, you can join my site for free, John Brakey Substack. And these 3 Substacks, I'm really proud of them. And you can see I've gotten heavy into cartoons, so you can read it by cartoon. You can, if you have an Apple product, it will read it to you. Okay, if it's or you can just read it. And there's videos, and then there's my affidavit that I'm in a case. I'm in 2 cases right now, and the affidavit, after I put it together, just horrified me to realize just that you got me onto the Cassandra situation, because I see all of us as being Cassandras, okay, once you understand who she was and what she was trying to say, because it's just bizarre. Our country's going down the goddamn tubes. You can see that.
At this point, I get the feeling that Trump assumes that he has already won the 26th election. Because
we don't need your vote.
Clear he doesn't
You don't have
care.
to vote, Harvey. You don't have to vote. Sorry.
Well, the point is that we know he knows, especially since since Musk had access to the Social Security data. Their data banks are really formidable here, and I'm not exactly clear. Historically, more Republicans have voted by mail than Democrats. But this attack on vote by mail, I believe you could make a case that he wants people to have to go vote in person so that then they can sick the KKK on them and drive everybody away from the polls. I mean, that is a logical reason to me for shutting down vote by mail.
Now, see what Allison's trying to do is get people, instead of checking their ballots, she's, make sure you got your vote in. You go to the government website and your ballot, say, oh yeah, you voted. We got counted your vote, whatever that may be. We don't know. But poll books, that's what Allison's doing, is getting people to check and see that the register. I mean, you can do that through your local county generally, or even your state. But the other thing I was going to say, and still, Lori Grace is talking about fear. And, these guys are doing this stuff all the time, and they know what they're doing is wrong. They know it. So instill righteous fear into them, like Eric Prince, whose private security blocked government agencies. I don't care who they are. They're starting to form a thing with Israel where they're going to build and merge the militaries. They're building a plant not less than 10 miles from me where they're going to start building missiles and things near Rickenbacker in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. We have a Facebook plant up here that's got 2 24-inch gas lines that are getting ready to fire up gas turbines in a neighborhood that's already overheated and polluted. This is the same thing went in Texas. So in Texas, here's another thing. The families went to vote recently. Half of the family was purged, or members were purged, and the machines went down. This is not correct. We have an election emergency. Well, that's what Harvey's working on. This is an emergency election protection meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I'm going to refire that website. And this is what we're facing here. So many people are counting on a turnaround in the 26th election, and we have no way to guarantee that there's going to be a fair election. And forewarned is forearmed. We saw this in 2000, 2004, 2010, 2016, and 24. And there's no excuse for not knowing what's coming at us. And unfortunately, we don't see an opposition party that's serious about dealing with this. That's my opinion. Anybody else want to jump in here? This has been a hell of a session.
There's a lot of people that are serious, Harvey, out there. Allison, Nathan. I mean, there's 1 million plus. I mean, there's more people serious about it than there are that aren't. And that's a fact. I can tell you that right now.
So what's the solution now? Everybody chime in here. How do we guarantee that we can set up an approach to the 26th election where we know there's going to be a tsunami of cash to make sure that we have a fair election?
Sorry, I raised my hand and I was just unmuted, but my name's Steven, and I was listening to the conversation here about your website and it seems like, I forget your name, but you were saying there's a lot of other people, more than you think, interested in wanting to do stuff. With this website, it might be a great idea to, have other groups that you're working with and form a kind of a brand alliance, kind of like how the unions work, you see, and have like a federated sharing of like web rings, so that there's not just one central, website, but a collection of them, that kind of spreads out the one, how actionable people can be across the US and stuff like that. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea. We have a lot of different people with great expertise, but it's got to be deployed now. I mean, this is obviously a five alarm fire, and that's what we're going to have to deal with going forward into the election. And I just don't have a confidence that this, having seen these elections before, what Bob Petrakis and I were writing about. And it was Bob's research about what was going to happen in Ohio 2004. And everything that we warned about happened. And they stole the damn election. And the Democrats told us to shut up. I mean, that was basically the message we got from the Kerry campaign, as did Al Gore. Al Gore was presiding. Al Gore was the vice president of the United States. He was presiding over a joint session of Congress, and he would not allow the Black Caucus to challenge the Florida outcome. I mean, it's shocking. And Hillary Clinton was handed a court decision in Michigan in 2016 to do a recount, which was clearly mandated by the facts. She would not do it.
Putin told her not to do it.
2024, Kamala Harris was faced with an election that was absolutely rife with red flags and disappeared. Never said, still hasn't said a word. Dave Saltman?
Here's my plan of action. I'm not kidding. Tomorrow, this team, this sterling headline team, takes all of its data and does the following conference calls. Paul Steiger, Jeff Goldberg at The Atlantic, David Remnick at The New Yorker, and David Boyes, class action suit. And Jamie Raskin is on the call. I got someone at my front door. That is all.
Well,
I would be there.
I hope it's not the Gestapo. Ray Lutz? Raymond?
Yeah, well, that would be great if we could get a call like that going and get some of these things out. Well, my experience has been the news organizations are very afraid of saying anything about this stuff. And, I sat there in Detroit. I went to the recount, Jill Stein recount, and I watched these tables, and there were people there from the Clinton campaign that would never say a word.
Yeah.
And there were people from the Trump campaign that would object to everything, right? And basically they would try to count the ballots there and match it up to some chicken scratch numbers that were in the box. And they wouldn't match a lot of times, and they said, oh, okay, they don't match, therefore we're not going to audit that one. And it was just the opposite of what I would say. The numbers don't match, therefore you should audit it. They said that's unauditable, we're going to pull it out. So they had like 60,000 ballots of unauditable batches. And it was just a complete mess. And that's why they had to pull the plug there in Michigan, because they had such a mess. But, it was sickening to watch. Clinton's attorneys do nothing, and Stein try to take over. And so we've got a big problem here with somehow the Democratic Party has a mindset never to challenge anything, never to say that they should wait for even for the audit or even for all the votes to come in. By God, it's frustrating here in California, because they'll be calling the election after Florida votes and haven't even, our results aren't even in yet. and the person will concede, right away. It's like, come on now. We have to actually look over what happened in the election, make sure we get the evidence, make sure that we look at it, and get out of this mindset. Getting out of that is going to be difficult, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do. I like the idea of getting
Wait 1 second,
grassroots
Ray.
engaged.
Ray. Before you jump one step forward,
Okay.
Jimmy Carter did that in 1980. When Jimmy Carter was allegedly losing to Ronald Reagan, the polls had not even closed in Hawaii, and he conceded. He conceded, and there was a giant uproar about that. But we're not even just going back to 2000 with Gore. We're going all the way back to 76.
Yeah, it's a education process. I think we should be telling the Democratic Party, we can't be saying don't be an election denier, blah blah blah. See, that's kind of getting us into a problem because we don't want to be an election denier. We don't want to be sour grapes. No, that's not the issue. In fact, you don't need to concede. No one should ever be pressured to concede. There's no reason. Conceding doesn't do anything. If you conceded and then you won the election, you would still win. It doesn't do anything. So we need to somehow get that through, and I think there's a chance of doing that. But here's the problem with this is that it's very hard to predict what Trump is going to do next. We can predict that he's going to do all kinds of crap on the way up to this election, but it's very hard to know what thing he's going to do next. Like this thing with the mail ballots that I brought up, and it was also brought up later. That is a big concern. Now, I talked to my San Diego election office because I went in for observation. I encourage everybody to go to their election office and see what's going on there. But I asked them, does the mail system ever filter the ballots or never, somehow not deliver them all or decide that they're not going to mail some of them and just shred them? I mean, honestly, is that happening? I mean, this is the place where it was funny because we were challenging San Diego back in 2016, and they had this shredding truck drive up during the election that said, when the results have to be certain on the side of the shredding truck, driving up to the election office during an election. I mean, it forced us to have to ask them, what are you doing with the shredding truck? Tell us exactly what you were shredding during the election. And don't drive it up there anymore because we don't have to jump through the hoops of asking you why you're having a shredding truck come. But so the mail system seems like it's under better management now. I mean, Louis DeJoy is gone, and we have a new guy from Waste Management who seems like he's okay, but I don't know. I think if he just follows the rules, he may get suckered into doing whatever Trump wants. I don't know what his political biases are. So we got to be on our toes. We got to be ready to take action.
Ray, you're absolutely right, but I don't want to lose sight of what Salty just said. Now, he's a veteran of TV news, and he knows a good story when he sees it. And I don't want to hear, oh, the media's afraid.
No, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that.
So let's all rally together, and we'll start the biggest outlet that we can find.
I mean, at least there's got to be outrage. There's got to be outrage against this mail, controlling the mail.
That's right.
Idea.
That's right. We've got a whole lot of hooks in this story, a whole lot of reasons for this to be covered. Every single one of y'all I see on the screen has a story to tell, and we'll get it out there. We'll get it in The Progressive. We'll get it in The Nation. We'll get it in Common Dreams, and then on and on up. And there will be an uproar. If the people demand coverage of this, they're going to, we can even organize a campaign. Call your local news. Ask them why you aren't covering this. Call the New York Times. Call the Washington Post. Why are they covering this up? We can light a fire on them. We can light a fire under them. We can make them do it. If they don't want to do it, we'll make them do it.
Well, one vehicle that's coming up, actually, that I just remembered, on June 14th, which is Trump's birthday. Is that right? Was it 14th or 24th? I can't remember which one. Um, there's going to be another No Kings Day. And I think maybe we should use that as a vehicle to say, election protection.
That's a
Because
brilliant suggestion, Sonny. I can try to get you in touch with the people who are organizing it. I don't know them myself, but some people I work with
that would be great.
do
Yes.
work with those people. It's the
Well, remember last time we stuck in no nukes, and it did get a little bit of play, but anyway.
Hey, baby steps. This is of more attention.
June 14th.
Nukes,
June 14th.
nukes will come soon, but
Allison,
the voting now.
Okay, John, Steve Caruso, you have a hand, and then Allison again. We're almost, Steve. I don't know if
I'm looking. They're not
Christian
here yet.
Nunez has showed up yet because we have 7 o'clock reserved. We still have 66 people with us. God love you all. Alison Greene, did you have something else you wanted to say?
I actually also love the idea, June 14th. And again, if we can get some volunteers to help us out, I know there's smart people here and we just need the help. But one of the things I like to do is look at who's been successful. And I love to look at the Hong Kong protesters. And one of the things that the Hong Kong protesters did so successfully was they took things like the No Kings rallies, and they actually had airdrops with information in those rallies to get the word out of key information. So if we had something that we can kind of drop with this election protection and to try and get the eyes on it, you literally can kind of airdrop it to everybody in the area in a rally, and you start to get a lot of grassroots efforts and people. So those are the types of ideas we'd love to just get some help with that, and maybe you guys could help us, and I'm happy to join that conversation with the journalists, because we've been trying to get journalists to cover this, but I'm always ready to try and kick down that door again.
John Brakey?
I agree with Allison and the person who talked about getting media. I've never seen anything as bad as the media is now in this country. And I've been an activist all my life. I've worked with the New York Times on stories in Mexico. They don't even respond. Our TV local stations took away their, hey, send us a case or whatever. You can't even get a hold of them anymore. It's it's just incredible. And that's why the Cassandra Syndrome series that I put together, really goes into it. And I never mentioned fraud. I mentioned that our elections are not verifiable, how vulnerable they are, how you could do it. Do you know what I'm saying? I go into the history of 20 years. Okay. I get an affidavit there that I put out that's in there that explains how many cases I've caught of actual election fraud. A few minutes ago, I had a video up. I have a guy breaking into the into the computer system. Okay. And I caught it on tape.
We're gonna have to cut you off, John. We're gonna have
to a whole 2 hours with
I didn't say the whole word. I think I only part of it.
Well, we'll see. Dorothy,
it's just that frustrating.
Let's go.
Let me finish. Let me get my thing in, and then because every time you wait, I build up more and more, and then I can't stop talking.
Oh, you got all right.
So anyway,
so we actually had a fire here in Los Angeles, and the palace may have been burned.
Well, yeah, it's on the LA Times. Has
LA Times, they actually covered it. But what I want to say is, anybody know Ken Klippenstein or Judd Lagoon?
No, I don't. Sorry.
They have Substacks that are very widely read, and they're into exposing stuff. So if someone sends me something, I could get to one of them, something concise or whatever. I don't know what to say because I can't.
Well, then there needs to be a declaration now of protecting the election. And it needs to be
these guys do investigative reporting. If I just give me one good instance that I could just give them, if I could get through to them, I would send it to them and see if they'll go further then.
Alison Greene, this will hold. Election Truth Alliance. Can you remember all this? You writing it down?
No, just somebody send it to Harvey, and Harvey will send it to me.
I got it. I've been putting it out there. Go to Grassroots Election or Substack, and I put stuff up there too, and also our Blue Sky account?
Well, we have a menu. We've got gerrymandering. We've got the voter list that Trump is attacking. We have intimidation. We have the money. We've got ghost voting. We've got the mail.
you need one good instance.
Okay,
You know how it goes.
we'll do it.
Give these
Okay.
guys a laundry list. First, you have to get them to bite. Then you can give them a laundry.
Well, that's the problem. If they bite, then it hurts. Heidi, Heidi, and then Stephen, and then we're waiting for Christian Nunez. We're gonna have a 20-minute session on the data centers. Again, if the data centers are big giving us AI, which is so smart, why can't they get their own goddamn oops, get their own energy? So there we go. Grassroots EP. Heidi, and then Stephen. Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how we might be able to, I mean, like, I was going to chime in on getting local coverage and maybe doing something right outside the local news stations would maybe help get them to realize that something is going on and that they need to pay attention. I don't know. It's just an idea, but also we need to look at the public broadcasting systems too, and look at the people that are doing like the community radio stations and stuff to get the word out to those people, because those people tend to get the word out to the other people, and sort of like
Heidi,
tree
if I could
branches.
really quickly, that's a brilliant idea. And some of us know a little something about this outfit called Pacifica Radio. And if
Right.
Pacifica Radio starts banging the drum on this, then maybe some other people will start covering it. So thank you. That's a brilliant idea. I appreciate that so much.
Oh, good.
Stephen RM. And then we're still waiting. Mike, I don't know if Christian Nunez is not going to show up here.
Well, she was going to come like 7:05 or so if she could
All right,
make it.
here we are. Go
I'll
ahead.
I'm
text
looking
her.
for the other person too.
Stephen RM, did you already
Yes.
speak, Stephen?
Yeah, I was going to
Leatrice.
say, I was listening to y'all talk about different avenues and stuff like that. Have you looked into the APWU, the American Postal Workers Union? They're doing a big campaign on mail-in voting, kind of defeating some myths and those things like that. But they're putting a lot of money into that. So maybe that's another avenue to speak with them. I know that they would probably be gracious to work.
Yeah, let's do that. We had it's been a while since we had a union person on, but the APWU is a good progressive union.
We've got Leatrice on. What about a more perfect union? Have you followed them at all, Stephen? They've got some great videos out there going down to minutia.
Yes, actually, I was watching the More Perfect Union yesterday on their SNAP benefits and stuff like that. There was some great content there. But I do know that the APWU, they are fighting for male rights and for Americans because they regard it as, a sacred obligation to the American public that
Well,
our
you're
mail-in.
right, and the APWU is a good union, and so let's. I'm glad to hear of their support. So let's jump in with them.
Leatrice, if you could turn your video on, please, I'll get you on the screen. We can start with you. We don't know
Right, we're
if
down. We got
Christian Nunez is going to
17
show up yet or not, but look.
17 minutes to go here. Gary Crane, go ahead. Gary Crane, let's get you unmuted. This has been a phenomenal session. Go ahead, Gary Crane.
Yeah, I was just going to say here in Philly from June 4th to June 8th is the Netroots Nation Conference, the largest conference in the country every year of most of the liberal organizations. So if someone can send me a one-pager, I'll make 100 or 200 copies. There'll be most of the liberal press there as well to hand out, basically even 3 per page, with just something that basically gets people intrigued enough to click on the QR code where you can have something more lengthy people can get to on your upcoming website or something, whatever you can put together, just a list of the top links that all these people like Brakey can provide.
Well, I actually have a website set up, and I'll go revisit it over this week, and maybe Lori and John and Ray, we can work on this to make sure the content is. I did it with Camilla Reese and John Steiner a few months ago. So, and also Andrea Miller participated. So let's revive that website. I'll have it ready for some kind of perusal in a week, and we'll get this all going. So everybody on here,
Yeah, but just keep in
61
mind,
of
this
you
is the
now.
biggest conference. This is the biggest conference. It's
Thank
this
you.
Monday, Thursday, Friday.
We know about Netroots. Thank you. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
thanks, Gary. That's a great idea. We'll work that in, and we'll revisit this next week, and we'll have the that other website, the alternative website, ready to rock and roll. Andrea Miller also participated in it. Okay, John, is that a dog I see you with there? Okay. Anybody else now? We've got 15 minutes left.
Well, Leatrice Guttentag here from
Leatrice, go ahead.
Hold on, this. You're a co-host, so you can turn your video on, please, if you would.
Leatrice, are you with us?
Do you want to tell us what's going on in the Columbus area and what's going on with the data centers?
Yeah, the next topic, the final topic for the day, I was going to discuss the 3 ETs in professional sports, but we'll push that next week. But unfairly, I will reveal the names. There are 3 clear extraplanetary aliens in the NBA and the Major League Baseball. Their names are Shohei Ohtani, LeBron James, and who's the guy for the 7'4" guy for San Antonio?
Victor Wembanyama.
Victor, see, these people are not from this planet. I'm sorry.
Wembanyama.
So we'll discuss that in greater detail when we have a sports show to talk about. Miss Guttentag, are you with us?
I am now. I was having a little trouble.
Let's see your face. Well, Leatrice, I just want to say one thing to you. Good day. And let's hear you about the data centers, please.
Okay, perfect. I am one of the chairs of the Licking County portion of Conserve Ohio. Conserve Ohio is a grassroots group started actually in Cincinnati, and we are across the state where we are trying to get signatures to get on the ballot in November to get rid of any mega hyperscale data center. And by doing so, if we succeed, we will be the first grassroots group in Ohio's history to actually do such a thing without being paid. And what we generally are telling everybody is so far we've been doing this for about 10 weeks. We already have 40,000 signatures.
How many do you need?
We need 300,000.
300, but then you got to get an extra whatever. So
200,000 because the Board of Elections generally throws out about 40%.
Okay.
And what we're telling everybody is anybody can volunteer. We have a thing going right now. It's called 10 for Ohio. If you go to conserveohio.com, you can download the petition and instructions, and we tell everybody just get 10. Just get 10 of your family members, your neighbors, or your friends and send it in. And if everybody does that, we'll be there really quickly.
Now, do you have a piece of legislation drafted that you're trying to
Yes,
have it all ready
exactly
to go?
what we have. It's actually in the front page of the petition booklet, spelled out what we want. There you go.
Okay.
Go down to the petition packet right there. Click on that. And right there is the summary of what we're trying to get on the legislation. And that is actually below it is where the signature collection section.
And do these people who sign the petition, do they have to be from a certain jurisdiction?
No, they only have to be registered voters.
So people, do they have to be from Ohio?
Yes, they do have to be from Ohio.
Yeah, so everybody who's not from Ohio, please do not sign. You'll give them a sense of false security.
Well, we do have people who try to. When I've been at events, it's kind of funny. We have to turn them away.
That's wonderful.
I do believe Christian Nunez is with us.
Thank you. Yes,
okay,
we do
Christian Nunez. Great to have us, and stay with us, Leatrice.
I will.
Christian Nunez, we have 10 minutes, and we know that you're leading a major, or you're part of a major campaign on data centers. Let's say we've had you before. Let us know what you're doing here.
Sure. So thanks for having me on, everyone. It's always wonderful to see everyone. So one of the important things that my Equity Bound Solutions is my consulting firm. We're spearheading a project on AI and Justice Initiative, and the whole purpose of this program is really about, how do we address and identify the harms that are caused from unregulated AI and data centers. This project particularly focuses on data centers and looking at the inequities that are being exacerbated from data centers by how they place the data centers and, and their construction data centers, typically in impoverished communities, communities of color, rural communities, and places like that where they're already experiencing disadvantage on the resources that they receive in their communities. And so this is a really interesting, we're doing multiple listing sessions and building coalitions, statewide coalitions in the states. Right now, we're starting with 3 states, Texas, Illinois, and Virginia. Texas and Virginia, of course, having the most data centers. And I just saw a report today that said between the combination of data centers coming out between tech that are in construction in Texas and Virginia, it will represent more data centers in the whole entire United States of America. And so it's just really important for this project to really hear from the people who are directly impacted, constituents, voters, community members, and how it has been harming and affecting their lives. So they can then turn out and then we can use that information to create recommendations, educate on policy, educating on how to show up and be advocates, as well as make sure they're prepared for the election in November so they know, exactly who votes how, who's supporting, who's getting money from these, and they're allowing these data centers to come in without informed consent. We're not anti-data center, but we're about informed consent and making sure the community is included in the conversation about how the data center is, and then how is the data centers and these billionaire companies giving back to these communities to make sure they're not depleting them further and taking more away. So
Christian, really, really quick, I want to introduce you to Leatrice Guttentag. She's leading an effort in Ohio doing exactly the same thing.
Awesome.
So we're going to get the two of you in touch. And Leatrice is already petitioning, getting things on the ballot, and doing things that we hope we can do in Illinois, Virginia, and Texas as well. Ohio's leading the way thanks to Leatrice and the people she's working with. Leatrice, just quickly say hi to Christian and bring her up to date. Oh, Leatrice, you're muted. We got to get you unmuted, Leatrice.
It's my bad.
No, that's okay.
Okay, there I am. It's nice to meet you.
You as well.
I am one of the team. Sorry about the dog. You get that when I unmute too. I am one of the team leads in Per County in Ohio, and we are trying to outlaw no mega data centers over 5 megahertz, because we are number 5 in the country, and in how many there are, they're putting them in rural communities around me, really close to people. In fact, today, we were at the State House with providing testimonial for the legislation. And with that, and between that and our petition, we are really hoping to eliminate the problem or at least get it under control in Ohio.
Well, let me also introduce you now to Vina Colley. Vina Colley's in Portsmouth, Ohio, in Southern Ohio, and they're also wanting to put a data center there. Christian, you should certainly be in touch with Vina, and I don't know if you know Leatrice Vina Colley, but go ahead, Vina.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that Piketon is going to have 16 small modular reactors, one of the largest data centers put at Piketon, and a gas power plant to power these. And we are making the fuel right now for the small modular reactors to feed the data centers. And we've been trying to get the word out, and I've also got petitions that trying to get this to be voted on. But they also want to put it up here at Havard Hill. They want to put the data center at Havard Hill, which is only 20 miles from the A plant. It's called the Portsmouth Gas Diffusion Plant. And so they're trying really hard to put all this in our communities within 25 miles. And yes, we'd like to help and talk to you guys.
Thank you, Vina.
Absolutely. I've dropped my email in chat, my email and phone in the chat, as well as a link to anybody who might be interested in being involved in the coalitions. Right now, we're starting in those 3 states, but eventually it's going to expand. But any org can be a part of the coalitions to help these states who are really seeing this huge impact. And I would love to connect with you too, as well, because I think we're all doing the same wonderful work. And so sharing of ideas and also just supporting each other's efforts.
Well, this
I would
is a
love to do
big
it.
deal. This is a big deal, and we do pass legislation in Ohio, and I saw an article claiming that more people are now there are more fights against data centers than there are against windmills. So that's a good sign. And of course, the data centers are being used as an excuse to build new nuclear plants, which is just insane, absolutely insane. So the nuclear issue is now linked to the data center issue, big time.
And Sonny, if I could just say really quickly, that's a very important point. And I just saw that there was a poll saying that people would rather have a nuclear plant than a data center in their area, but they're going to end up with both. And so,
well, there's no
real
demand
quick,
for
Sonny, real quick. This is like rubber hits the road time. What Christian is trying to do is gather people who have experience organizing communities to teach people who have the passion but haven't learned how to do that yet, so we can help educate people and train them and answer their questions and get them up to speed. And Leatrice, you and the people you're working with, if you could spare a little time to talk to our compatriots in Texas, Illinois, and Virginia, we would absolutely love that, because you've already done this. So
Well,
this
we're in
is
the
what we're trying
process.
to do.
We're in the process of doing it.
Yeah,
And
well, you've already launched it, and that's what I'm trying to say.
that
There are
we
people,
have.
there are people who don't know the threat. There are people who know the threat but don't know what to do about it, and we're trying to bring them all together. And that's what I'm saying, that you're already,
Correct.
you're already making progress.
From what I remember reading was not every state will let a grassroots effort get a change the constitution of a state. We're
Right.
lucky in Ohio that we are allowed to do that. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe I thought 18 states are the only ones that'll let us do, which is part of the problem.
Sure. But go ahead.
I would like to say I'm going to hold a big national meeting here with Alliance for Nuclear Accountability in the fall, and I would like for you to come and speak if you could make that possible.
Well, we absolutely need,
brilliant.
Mike is 100% right. We need to link the data center issue with the nuclear issue, both movements, because there's absolutely no reason to ever build a nuclear plant in this country without this excuse of the data centers. Because
That's right.
Otherwise, there's no possible justification in terms of demand.
Right. And also
demand.
Environmental racism and environmental classism. These things are all wrapped up together, because these disgusting nuclear plants, oil burning plants, gas burning plants, dumps, everything, they locate them where people are not politically organized, where they're not wealthy, where they're not connected. And we're going to teach them how to fight back and shut this down, because it's not okay.
And one last thing, we're also looking at and wanting to make sure we educate the community about also how the impact and the stress these centers cause on communities also increase community violence and intimate partner violence. And that, so we have to talk about that too, how environmental justice and the stress also intersects with community violence and intimate partner violence and violence against women. So it's all interconnected, and I really appreciate everyone pulling the different parts of how we're seeing the connections.
All right, you guys, we're at the end of our rope here. This has been an incredible 2.5 hours. Great to have you, everybody. We still have, what do we got here? 50 people with us. Geez, longest attention span in America. We'll be talking about the election protection work and getting it organized, and the same with unifying the data center / no nuke stuff. Steve Caruso, you get the last word. He's been our great engineer. deserves a hand. Mike Hirsch, thanks for being with us. Maurice and everybody else. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so Leatrice was a survivor of 9/11 attacks. She was
wow.
below. Leatrice, you want to talk about that at all? That's up to you.
Well, and then we're out.
Well, part of the reason I joined this fight, and I'll be honest, I ignored it for quite a while. After 9/11, a little bit after, I moved out to Ohio. I live about 5 quiet wooded acres, nature, a little bit outside the city where I started my own business, and I just wanted to live a quiet life. I had checked all the zoning ahead of time. I knew what could be built where. And now, half mile right across the road from me, they're trying to build a hyperscale data center. And that noise, or even worse, the noise that you can't audibly hear, causes cortisol problems and everything that I struggle with daily. And then if they build this and this gets through zoning, I'm going to have to choose my land or my health.
Unbelievable. Well, thank you so much, Leatrice. This is an incredibly important story. This has been a mind-boggling session. Thank you, everybody. Glory Grace, great to see you. And we will be back again next week for more no nukes and election protection. Thank you so much, everybody.
And no unregulated data centers.
And next week,
exactly. We're going to tie it all together.
We do have a guest lined up to talk about abolishing nuclear weapons, which has now become completely inseparable from abolishing nuclear power plants, which is inseparable from these data centers, which is inseparable from protecting our democracy.